Forrest, are we trying to kill DevRel?
Welcome back to Velocitea. The podcast where we ask the hard questions.
No, in all seriousness, it was interesting because when we first founded F&F, I went to a conference shortly thereafter, and I got so much pushback from our beautiful, wonderful friends in developer relations.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. They were like, why are you trying to kill DevRel? And I was like, first of all, I've dedicated a decade of my life to this.
Yeah,
I'm not
so you have
trying
more
to
reason to kill it
DevRel.
than anyone.
And the knowledge to do so. No, I think it's like a totally different discipline, but it is interesting how people kind of overlay DevRel with influencers. And I think it's an interesting kind of interpretation of the work.
Well, I think it is too, but I feel like we need to zoom out and define what DevRel is.
No, thank you. Gotta go. Goodbye.
Emily Freeman, how would you, maybe this can be our icebreaker question for today. How would you define DevRel in one sentence?
Who are you and what's your role? And I'll tell you a different answer. No, I feel very passionately that developer relations is constantly being put into an organizational box. The debate we are having is wrong on the grounds of how it's trying to define it. So typically you'll hear developer relations, oh, is it marketing? Is it product? Is it development? And it's none of those things.
Yes.
Developer relations is the equivalent of a special forces team, in my opinion. They do not fall directly into a particular category or sort of branch of a company. Because you're not going to hit the same like OKRs. There's not predictable nature to developer relations. Developer relations is solving the problem in front of you and trying to prevent bigger problems down the road.
Yes, I totally agree with all of that. I also think it's hilarious that I asked you, what is DevRel? And you basically said, I reject the premise of the question. That can't be a good sign for the future of this particular discipline.
No, I mean, people have floated the idea of having a chief DevRel officer, which I find to be ridiculous.
Have they really,
Please
like,
don't.
seriously? That's been floated?
Yeah,
Like
I think
who?
that's very...
DevRel people?
Yes. I have no interest in that. I think it should be, there's debates on like where it should roll up in the company.
Yeah.
But for me, the most effective difference I made for the companies I worked with in developer relations was fundamentally preventing the company from doing or making poor decisions that would impact the developer community negatively.
Yes.
And potentially harm the brand. And two, solving problems quickly through the vast network of my friends, because I'm very popular. No, but I think that is where that is where developer relations really shines, because I can pick up the phone and call someone at any company and say, hey, we have this issue. How can we fix this? And we don't have to escalate through this legal formal path.
No, but that's so interesting, though, because like any kind of informal backroom network like that, like you can only call so many favors. And I think a lot of companies that hire DevRel people who are known for being able to do that don't seem to understand that they can't just push that button 12 times a day every day.
Oh, and that they also don't have to give, right? Because if I'm going to ask favors, it is very much like diplomacy, I think, in that kind of context, where it is an economy of favors. And if you're at Apple and I'm at Google, then if you need something, I have to deliver on that favor, which takes some work, because it is this kind of like it's not purely transactional, but it is a community of helpers.
I mean, if you're at Apple and I'm at Google, it definitely is transactional.
I mean,
it's like $20 billion to keep my search engine in your
That's very fair.
in your browser.
But at the company level, for sure. But at the personal level, like,
Yes.
I mean, if a friend needs help, I'm going to help.
Absolutely you are. Yeah, and I think DevRel people have been exploited for those connections over the years, and that's part of what has made a lot of DevRel people honestly feel burned out. Right.
I would say, I was explaining this to someone because it's interesting. I think, again, it's a different episode where what happened to Twitter. But it feels right now that our social circles in tech are somewhat calcified based on where they were, because there was this fracture. And I was explaining to someone that a lot of the people that I used to be on the conference circuit with are doing their own thing, taking a break, like... a lot of us are burnt out.
A lot of us are burnt out. Doing DevRel well requires an awful lot of, it's not even that it takes more hours than other kinds of roles, but it takes a lot of hours of being really on and it doesn't have a lot of, like predictable patterns that you can fall back into.
Yeah.
You're kind of solving different problems every day. That is not really a shelf-stable way to live. And I feel like a lot of the really, really good DevRel people I've known, they do it for 2 or 3 years, and then they need to go take a sabbatical in engineering again, or they need to go back to marketing for a little while, and that's not a knock on them. It's just like you strip your gears trying to do that for a period of time. Even someone like a Kelsey Hightower, right? Like he was incredible, and he got to a point where he could retire.
Yes.
Like he wasn't going to do that for 20 years. That's an impossible pace to keep up.
Absolutely not. And I think Kelsey's such an interesting case study because Kelsey's an incredible human being. I have incredible respect for him. And so many people ask in developer relations, how do I find the next Kelsey? And my answer is you wouldn't recognize Kelsey if he came and sat in the interview chair. You wouldn't hire the Kelsey because Kelsey is like an exceptional human and stepped in and rose into a role. But a lot of times companies will reject the Kelseys outright because they don't fit this box. They aren't hitting the OKR. Well, what are you doing? Are you a content creator? Are you an engineer? Like they try and kind of like frame it. And the truth is it can be all sorts of different skill sets that exist in that.
Yes, there's no great man theory of history when it comes to DevRel.
How dare you bring up great man theory right now?
It's all systems and choices and incentives and motivations. And on that bummer note, I feel like DevRel, as a lot of people think of it, their conceptions of it are still stuck in 2019. This pre-pandemic world where there was a lot of conference travel, a lot of assumption that DevRel would serve as this, I don't want to say like a public-facing ambassador pitch person for your product, but that really was what was expected of folks. And I think even some DevRel folks kind of got to think of themselves in that way. That was their self-conception. Right?
Yeah.
That was also not a shelf-stable way to go about things. And the combination of the pandemic and the end of zero interest rate meant that a lot of DevRel folks have had to modify their roles or their teams have changed their charter since then. What do you see as the future of DevRel?
So I think you're exactly right. I would say that in 2019, that was probably the sort of pinnacle of that flavor of developer relations. And it was focused on this sort of celebrity type personality within tech. And there is value to that to a degree. But I think we focused way too much on that. I mean, I was saying this in 2017, 2018. We were hiring people who literally just wanted to be tech famous, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking people.
Totally.
But if you go into that role in particular, focused on you're not going to be successful.
You're exactly right. And I want to say something maybe a little controversial here, given that we theoretically run an influencer marketing company.
That's true.
Which is that I don't think developer celebrity itself is what it was or is ever going to be again.
Yeah, no, I think it was
I think we're all just way more jaded than we were 5 or 10 years ago, and we just don't care, right? Like, I just want to do my job and get paid for it. Tell me what I need to use, right? I'm not going to put you up on a pedestal for doing it, you know? So the influencers we work with who are tremendous now, like, they just create value and write interesting stuff that people want to learn from, Well,
and it's focused on the content, not the personality.
Yeah,
I think where we
exactly.
went wrong, a bunch of people got up on stage and said, I am so-and-so, and this is why I'm amazing for 25 minutes. And the truth is, I don't care. I don't want to hear myself do that. Like, that is not interesting.
I'm sure you are amazing, but
it's like cool, like that's not appropriate for a talk. And so, I think the pendulum swung all the way over here. It was really focused on this kind of outward facing, purely promotional, what I would call evangelism.
Yes, an unfortunate but apt, I think, term.
Yes. And so, you have this kind of approach, and now people are trying to figure out, okay, what's next, to your point. And I think it has to get crisp on what the value add to the company actually is. And a lot of people default to content creation because that's the easiest thing. But I don't think that's the best use of developer relations. True story.
Do tell.
No, I think that's like the easiest way to solve the problem. Like, okay, we're going to have them write. I mean, I heard one team, like they wanted each advocate to write 1 blog a week. And I was like, 1 blog a week? I'll get paid to write 1 blog a week. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
These are like the lowest bar.
I know. Can
ever.
ChatGPT write it? That's,
No, I think it's, again, it's this very multifaceted role. And I think, when we had Kendall on the show, he was talking around making sure that product marketing or other marketing functions inform product
Yes.
of how the product can be improved. And that is where I think developer relations really starts to shine. But it's all often invisible labor. And that's the issue.
Famously well compensated and recognized by everyone.
Because if you find out, my value in going to a bunch of conferences wasn't the talk I gave. It was, you can argue having like a brand name up on my slides has some value. I actually don't think it has a ton of value. It's the people I'm talking to. It's the feedback I'm getting. It's the relationships I'm building. That is what ultimately has value to the brand. And it is this sort of acknowledgement that the brand is choosing to invest in particular developer communities. That has a ton of value too, and we're kind of seeing a pullback around that.
We are, yeah, and I think that sort of thing always follows the money too, doesn't it?
Oh,
and so
yeah.
like we work with AI companies where they have these fantastic, built-out DevRel teams that are well-funded and have lots going on, right? But if you're in one of those companies that last got funded in 2022 and it's so clear that no more is ever coming,
Yes.
That's not a place you want to be if you're on the DevRel team,
Definitely,
right? Because
definitely.
you're going to have to be showing revenue contribution, one way or the other.
And so it's not that I think developer relations shouldn't create content. They absolutely should. I think DevRel should be, helping leaders write keynotes, helping, kind of create these core messages, making super technical, deep content that helps people onboard to the product, expand a product, etc. That is all very much worth it. But if it's, I'm going to sit on my phone and tweet all day, no, thank you.
If you had to come up with a better name for the discipline of DevRel and get everyone in the world to adopt it overnight, what would not be on the list?
That's a really hard question. Was that a lead-in? Do you have an opinion around this?
Well, I really wanted to surprise you with it and see what you thought. I can throw stuff
go.
out. I mean, I feel like DevEx is a different thing.
It
right?
is, in my opinion, yeah.
Although I think a lot of DevRel people fluidly move in and out of that role, right? How would you define the difference between those two?
So I think people move into DevEx when they need to prove that they have impact to product.
Well, that's just mean.
No, I think developer experience is actually super valuable. It is, but that is much more technical than I think most of the people who call themselves DevEx actually, are day to day.
Yeah.
For me, DevEx is, okay, how do I actually make this product more delightful and more usable to a developer?
So very product aligned.
Very
you would
product
say.
aligned.
Whereas what we're talking about with DevRel is it's a little bit of support for sales, a little bit of support for customer service, a lot probably support of product marketing and associated disciplines, certainly some support for product and design and engineering, all that kind of thing. I don't know if there's a term that fits that, right, other than, what we're already using.
Yeah.
But I worry that developer relations as a term is a little bit poisoned. So I wonder.
I think people have always hated. So I've always worked in a relations. I've worked in public relations. I've worked in community relations. I've worked in developer relations. And I think people don't like the relations because people forget.
Don't like the relations.
It's coming to a T-shirt near you. No, I think when things are going, it's like great design, right? When things are going well and everyone loves you, people think, why are we investing money in this?
Yes.
But when you stop investing money in it, people don't love you. And you see this over and over again.
It's like a 24-month cycle, isn't it?
Oh, I'll pick on Netlify. Netlify was like the most beautiful tech product. We loved Netlify. Everyone was excited about Netlify.
Sure, I still have a bunch of personal sites hosted on Netlify that I'll never pay them a dime for, and therein lies the problem.
But I would say at a certain point, if I had to list top 10 tech companies that I think are going to go big, Netlify was 100% on that list.
Yeah, they had the funding, they had the people, they had the developer love, right?
Yeah, developer love. And the developer love came in large part because they had a stellar DevRel team. And then they slowly either let those folks go or did away with the team. Yes. And, there are other things that contributed to Netlify's current standing, I'm sure. But I think that was a huge component of it. Because when you let go, when you stop investing in developers stop investing in you.
Developers stop investing in you, yes, with their $0, but their time and attention and everything else. I mean, at the very least, I suppose that helps your valuation. I think the pendulum swing that we see, of course, is it's like, oh crap, the product's got to make money now, right? So we're going to go up market and we're going to try to sell to the enterprise. Do that for 2 years. Wait, what happened to the developers?
Exactly.
It's just over and over again. If your company is going through that right now and you're listening to this, I promise you're not alone. We probably hear that weekly from companies we talk to.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, getting back to us, like the influencer marketing, I think is such a good partnership with developer relations, because in large part it can drive toward that more technical content, drive toward the messaging that they want.
Okay, well, I mean, that's the obvious question. Then where does developer relations, classically speaking, leave off, and where does influencer marketing leave on?
Yeah.
I don't know what the opposite of leave off is.
I mean, I imagine there's squishiness there. For me, your DevRel team should be the experts on your brand and products for your specific audiences. So let's say for a dev tool, that would be developers, probably in a particular ecosystem. They need to understand, what businesses are these people in? What are the challenges? Where does their product thrive? Where are the third rails of their product? What is it good for? What is it not? And then how to actually kind of ease that burden as people utilize it. And creating content around that and really kind of driving those messages.
Very first party, very bespoke.
Yeah.
Not a lot of opinion around it. It's just the voice of the product.
Well, and I think you can have opinions. So I think the individuals, I always had opinions around Microsoft and Amazon because I am opinionated. But I also don't think it was sort of taking the brand and putting Emily's spin on it. But you're right. I was repping the brand.
Yes.
A lot more than I could as an independent content
creator. Of course, and everybody knows that, whether consciously or not, right? When you speak on behalf of the brand, it's so weird because it's like you may have this big following and a bunch of people that respect you, but the minute that you go to work for the company, people automatically discount anything that you have to say about that brand thereafter. Right?
Or they put an asterisk next to it, And I think where it becomes a trust exercise is, do I trust this human enough to know that they are not actually being disingenuous with me when they're talking about this product and saying that it's good. Yes. And part of that is being open to saying what's bad about it, right? Which brands are...
Well, and again, getting back to someone like a Kelsey, one of the things that made him so magical was that he had no problem engaging where there were problems and speaking about them plainly. Right?
Absolutely. But I'm sure that rustled feathers at no
Google. Comment.
So I think you have these kinds of situations where you're sort of fighting the internal battle in defense of the external battle, and that is part of the challenge of DevRel. Where would you put the line between influencers and DevRel?
Anywhere that has dollars flowing toward me personally.
That's it.
No, I think, look, we've kind of covered this already, but we know that external influencers can say things the brand can't. And that extends to people who are repping the brand as employees full-time, right? Yeah. So while you may be getting sponsored to say something as a creator, you didn't have to take their money. Yeah. It's not like you're going to lose your job if you didn't take that money. So there is a built-in expectation of, okay, this creator chose to partner with this company for this specific campaign. They may not care about or like every feature of this product, but they cared about this feature enough to sponsor and do a partnership with them. I think as well, once you're trying to burst out of we might call it the solar system, right, of people that you're already talking to, as a brand account or a developer advocate account, you're kind of captured. You have the audience that you have. Oh, yeah. You're hitting them over and over again, and that's great, but how do you grow beyond that? It can't be at your own speed, right? You've got to be able to level up and reach hundreds of thousands of people that you're not already talking to. Influencers are great at doing that. Absolutely. So I think this is kind of where you started the conversation, but this is why we always try to take the content created by the developer relations folks and get more light and air on it through what the influencers are doing. So it should be a win-win. It should be a both and. It's not either or.
It is. No, we love working with DevRel teams, often because they have really high quality developer focused, content and understanding in a way that, product marketing sometimes doesn't. There are some very technical product marketing teams, but I would say on the large part.
Like DevRel is great. They should be funded. They should have huge influencer marketing budgets. Yes. These are all things that we advocate for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think, when you're talking about that solar system of reach, I wonder sometimes I almost became less valuable to the brand when I was hired. You touched on this earlier where it's like, oh, well, you're locked in. But even, the products and technical sort of specialties that I really focused on were focused on that ecosystem.
Ooh, I love
versus really being able to look at the broader, I've learned so much even the last year and a half of this business, just talking to other tech companies. Oh, they're doing that. Oh, that's such a cool approach. Oh, that's interesting. In a way that I haven't because I've been so locked into a particular culture and brand.
Yep. Having that ability to see the whole landscape is really important.
It is.
We have been bragging to our producer about ending these episodes right on time, and I'm pretty sure we're there, but I have one more fun question for you.
We have 4 minutes.
Okay, do we really?
Yeah.
Wow, see, look at that.
I know.
I'm anticipating. Okay, who is on your personal DevRel Mount Rushmore?
Ooh. Oh gosh.
With no disrespect to anyone who you do not mention.
Okay, I think Suze Hinton is someone I worked with at Microsoft.
Yep.
Who she was and is a fucking genius. Like, she's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And her kind of enthusiasm to both learn and teach is almost unmatched. I have just a tremendous amount of respect for her and her work. And she would pick things up so quickly. I learned so much from Suze. She was someone you could kind of like hand something to and just be like, figure it out. And be like, 24 hours like this is the app I've built. You're like, how? Yes. Love Suze. Who else? I think, we don't talk a ton about DevRel managers enough. I think a lot of times the people who end up in high-ranking leaders of developer relations teams are the worst part of that team. And I think in part because DevRel hasn't been broad enough as a discipline or large enough for long enough to have a clear group of leaders that have done the work.
Yes.
So often you end up with people who came in very early on, who worked in another discipline or did marketing or kind of like fell into this. And managing these kinds of teams requires like very steady ego, because in the peak where you're dealing with all these people who are very well known and very well popular, you have to manage them and give them feedback. That's a very particular kind of person. So I'll flag Ashley Willis as someone who is
Ashley is amazing. We've both worked for
manager.
Ashley.
Yes.
In fact, I would say Ashley probably has more responsibility for this company and this partnership existing than anyone else, because we trusted each other, having never met, because we both knew Ashley. Yeah.
But yeah, she's, I think, one of the strongest managers of DevRel across the industry, being able to handle those egos and the full flex of like a human being. I think, anytime you have someone who has a lot of empathy, you also have someone who is very sensitive. And kind of walking someone through their emotions requires something. A leader who tells people to stop crying on a call is probably not the best DevRel.
Sounds exhausting. How do you do it?
Oh, it'd be terrible. Let's see, who else? I only get two more.
You feel like you have to put Kelsey on there, right?
Of course. I mean, Kelsey Hightower. I'm trying, because we've already praised Kelsey Hightower. It's like we're gilding the lily at this point. Who else? I think, trying to think of people with different skill sets with it. Who's on yours?
We have like a combined Mount Rushmore. I mean, I don't know if he's ever technically had a DevRel role, which is what makes these so hard, but he does so much that I would consider to be what a great DevRel person does, is Jared Short.
Oh, yeah.
Jared is incredible. He's an AWS like DevTools hero or something, and he's a straight up product engineer. He's done that for a long time. I managed him for a while back at a consulting company I worked at a few years ago, where I would say we were both doing more DevRel than anything else. But his ability to, just like... I think what defines a lot of the great developer relations people who create content is they're just having so much fun.
Yes.
You will never beat someone who is having fun.
You're right.
You just won't.
You're right.
And he's a person who would take a new tool, a new technology, a new product, and say, oh, this looks like the most fun thing to play with that I've ever seen. And then he'd go away, and 4 hours later, he'd have the most hilarious sample app that you'd ever played with, right? And because his love is baked into it, then that automatically attracts the love of other people.
I love that.
So anytime I meet a Jared Short, and there's only one Jared Short, but like that would be a quality I'd be looking for in any great DevRel engineer.
Oh, well, and in that category, I would put Seth Juarez, Cassidy Williams is another one that stands out. It's just people whose enthusiasm is unmatched and whose genuine love for people and developers is ever present. I love that.
Yeah, good humans go a long way.
Good humans go a long way. I think these are, I could go on and on. There's some incredible people in the industry. There really are. And it's anyone who is willing to spend their free time building things. Sarah Drasner's on this list. Building things more on the DevEx side. She's incredibly...
Also from that great Netlify roster, as was Cassidy, right?
Yes, exactly. But, having this balance between engineering, product, and marketing, like if you can get all of those, someone who is technical, someone who can speak, someone who is, humble, shows up, pulls up their sleeve and does the not always glamorous work. Because that is the difference between, the people that I really admire and look up to in this role and the people that I don't admire. That's the difference. Are you willing to do hard work for no gain? Or are you in it when people are watching?
Exactly. Yep. Those are the kind of folks who have the staying power and will have a great career no matter where the winds of change are blowing in the DevRel industry as a whole.
Oh my gosh. And I think that transfers to influencers. When you have someone who is naturally enthusiastic, naturally giving, and humble, they stand the test of time. Some of these influencers, there's an arc to their story.
There absolutely is. Yeah. People who are genuine go a long, long way with that.
So we're not trying to kill DevRel is what I'm hearing.
I mean, like, what we really want to do is make them feel like there's a career in this for them to leave their jobs and become full-time influencers.
Oh my gosh, we've had some of our influencers quit their full-time job, and I love it. Like the fact that we're able to, in part, fund that and make them feel secure in that makes me so happy.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you are valued,
Yes.
and you deserve to be recognized and paid for what you do better than anybody else.
Yes.
Well, thanks once again for joining us. I have been Forrest Brazil. This is Emily Freeman, my co-founder at Freeman&Forrest. Our thanks to Britton Noel and Tyler Freeman, our wonderful producers on this episode. As always, it really, really helps us if you like, share, subscribe, however you engage with your podcast. Tell your friends. And if you have something you want us to talk about, let us know. Tweet at us. Tell us what we need to talk about on the next episode. Thank you.